You know where Hudson's Bluff is overlooking the point?
I can't beat your bike.
You don't have to beat me, Michael.
You're creature of the night, Michael. Just like out of a comic book. You're a vampire, Michael.
This is my series to dissect films, the good and the bad of them.
We have such sights to show you.
We're gonna sink into 1987's The Lost Boys.
Give me all you got!
Listen,
Give me all you got!
Welcome to Why You Hate. The 1980s had some of the best creativity and variety of horror as any other decade. We had slashers that became cultural icons, A-list actors and sci-fi horror classics, practical effects masterpieces that to this day astounds the mind, werewolves, zombies, ghosts, ghouls, demons, witches, and of course, vampires. Vampires had been around since the days of Nosferatu and Bela Lugosi's Dracula. What on earth could possibly push this subgenre any further than what it already had achieved? How do you compete with the Universal era that then ascended higher with the incomparable Christopher Lee and his reign as Dracula? The 80s took a bite into the lore with efforts like Once Bitten, The Hunger, and The Monster Squad.
Wolfman's got nards.
We then went further with Tobe Hooper's severely underrated Life Force.
Use my body.
Shout out to the amazing Matilda May. There was also Vamp, starring the chameleon of talent Grace Jones. The other big vampire project of the 80s that grew into a legend was Fright Night. Easily one of the best ever, but this episode isn't about that iconic film. We're going to talk about the other iconic vampire film of the 80s. Enter director Joel Schumacher, tasked with making a film that respected the classic lore while bringing a modern 80s feel that would rock audiences. The question is, would he be able to do it? Or would the film see visions of failure just like Michael did when he thought he was eating maggots? Let's get down to brass tacks. I'm going to go over some reasons why some fans have issues with The Lost Boys, and I know this will be a strong debate in this community for the lovers of this film and the detractors of it. So get ready to move to a town that is cool yet literally creepy because of the local night stalkers. Find the girl of your dreams and realize she's the squeeze of a guy cooler than you. Protect your little brother from the monster that you've become. And never ever try to outdo a biker fang gang, even if you still believe, 'cause you can't fly. Here are the reasons why you hate The Lost Boys. Number 1, story. When asked about why he did the film, director Joel Schumacher simply said, "Vampires are hot. They're the only erotic monsters. Frankenstein is not hot." I mean, like, yeah bro, you're right. There has always been that allure with vampires, an attraction that is buried so deep that no one can fully escape it, man or woman.
You're cocked, locked, and ready to rock.
The Lost Boys is a movie that leans into this in ways that is similar to fans of vampire films, yet vastly different. The backdrop of Santa Carla provides a rock and punk 80s aesthetic, giving a youthful and creative energy to everything in the 97-minute runtime. Guess what, horror nerds? Santa Cruz, where Santa Carla takes place, was once plagued with the reputation of being, quote, the murder capital of the world, because of a series of very brutal murders by 3 different very disturbed men in the early 1970s. Because of Jack Lindley Frazier, Herbert Mullen, and Ed Kemper, Santa Cruz endured 28 murders over a 30-month period between 1970 and 1973. Executive producer Richard Donner originally intended to direct the movie himself, but as production languished, he moved on to Lethal Weapon in 1987. Mary Lambert, who would direct The Amazing Pet Sematary a couple of years later, was brought in but left due to creative differences, and eventually Donner hired Joel Schumacher for the job. When Richard Donner was going to direct the movie, he planned for it to be a sort of quasi-sequel to The Goonies, with young people in a PG-13 action universe. Joel Schumacher's three biggest changes when he became the official director were making the main cast older, teenagers instead of preteens, adding to the horror elements and mixing in dark humor in lieu of more action, and intending the movie to be rated R. Filming began on the 2nd of June 1986 and ended on the 23rd of June 1986 after 21 days of filming. In Lethal Weapon, when Murtaugh and Riggs are walking down the street discussing how Murtaugh owes Hunsaker, a movie theater's marquee displays Lost Boys, this year's hit. In other words, the late great Richard Donner gave an awesome shout out to an awesome movie during his awesome movie. You catch all that awesomeness?
Give me all you got! This and give me all you got!
The film follows two teenage brothers who move with their divorced mother to the fictional town of Santa Carla, California, only to discover that the town is a haven for vampires. Oh, and for the young viewers here, the title is a reference to the Lost Boys in J.M. Barrie's stories about Peter Pan and Neverland, who, like vampires, never grow up. Most of the film was shot in Santa Cruz, California. The Lost Boys was released by Warner Brothers Pictures on July 31st, 1987, and was a critical and commercial success, grossing over $32 million against a production budget of $8.5 million. It has since then been described as a cult classic. The success of the film, 21 years after its release, spawned a franchise with two low-budget sequels, Lost Boys: The Tribe and Lost Boys: The Thirst, and two comic book series. And no, we don't talk about the sequels. They didn't exist at all. Number 2, characters. This was Corey Haim and Corey Feldman's first film together, which marked the start of a popular 1980s trend called The Two Coreys, in which Feldman and Haim starred together in a number of teenage films. This is also the second film that Corey Feldman starred in with Kiefer Sutherland, where Feldman was the hero and Sutherland was the villain. The first film is Stand By Me in 1986. These films were filmed back-to-back in 1986 and 1987, respectively. Corey Haim later characterized his experience on the shoot as, quote, one of the greatest personal times in my life. As a huge fan of 80s movies, Corey Haim was a young star with tons of charisma and potential for so much future success. Films like this, and many others, including Silver Bullet, showed why the screen found him literally irresistible. By the way, if you haven't watched my Why You Hate Stephen King's Silver Bullet, you need to right after this video. It won't hurt. I promise. Isn't that right, Billy Zane?
Hold up, well then there, motherfuckers!
Corey Feldman, who played Edgar Frog, almost wasn't in the movie. At the time, Corey struggled with drug abuse at a young age and showed up to work coming down from a cocaine binge. Director Joel Schumacher was very upset that Corey kept dozing off and was unable to continue filming, so he fired him, but hired him back the next day after Corey apologized and swore to come to work prepared from then on, which he did. According to Corey Feldman, Joel Schumacher wanted his character to resemble action stars of the day, so he told him to rent Sylvester Stallone and Chuck Norris films. Feldman clearly based his spoken delivery on Stallone. Both of the two 1987 movies about a family of vampires who lure a young man and make him into a half-vampire before he's eventually cured, Near Dark in 1987 and The Lost Boys, feature a son of Jason Miller in their cast. Joshua John Miller is in Near Dark, and his half-brother Jason Patric is in The Lost Boys. But Jason Patric wasn't keen on playing the role of Michael, as he didn't want to be in a vampire movie wearing fangs and flying around. It took several meetings with director Joel Schumacher, who eventually persuaded him to be the lead character. Jason was integral to this story. His ability to portray an 18-year-old that is on the brink of adulthood, but yet very vulnerable, and a caring older brother was effortless, a protagonist that we care about and want to follow on his journey. There are some fans that might say the character of Michael didn't do enough to warrant all the legendary status that he has, but I would beg to differ. I mean, let's be real, Michael was cool. Characters in the movie say the name Michael as a matter of fact, and they do it approximately 118 times.
It is not in the file. It is not.
Jim Carrey was considered for the role of David. He previously portrayed a vampire in the film Once Bitten from 1985. Jim Carrey is an amazing comedic talent, but yeah, I'm glad he wasn't chosen. Jamie Gertz was actually recommended by Jason Patric. Joel Schumacher was originally looking for a blonde. They had both previously starred in Solar Babies in 1986, and is probably the reason why he recommended her. Kiefer Sutherland was originally reluctant to star in the film as well, until he heard that Schumacher had lined up In Excess and Jimmy Barnes to sing some of the songs on the soundtrack. Kiefer had spent a summer in Australia when he was a child and became fans of their music. Sutherland's role as David, being one of the lead cast members, had the fewest lines amongst all leading and supporting cast members. At the same time, he had the most dialogue amongst the 4 vampire Lost Boys. Even with the little bit of dialogue, he was a character that shined, not only when on screen, but throughout the movie. And when you think of the Lost Boys, it's very hard to not think of David. Shout out to Kiefer Sutherland. Though almost all of Kelly Jo Minter's scenes are deleted from the film, and the only true appearance she makes is over Lucy's shoulder in the video store.
What the fuck?
She still received billing in the film's opening credits. Her scenes can be viewed in the 2004 The Lost Boys DVD special features. Number 3. Vampires.
I buried those cockroaches!
Vampire tropes such as no or diminished reflection, garlic, being invited into one's home, Lucy, the wife of Dracula, and holy water. For those who want their vampires gothic and regal-like, you are shit out of luck, and we all knew it. This depiction is pure 80s rock. Is that a betrayal of the subgenre, or is it a natural progression? Horror fans on both sides of the fence have debated that for decades.
Have you seen my silhouette?
It does honor the past in a creative way, in my opinion. Let's go deeper into the tropes. Max momentarily freaks out when he sees his own reflection. It's because he normally can't see it, as he only has a reflection when invited into someone's home. He formally requests the permission to enter the house. Initially, it seems like an obvious giveaway that he's a vampire, but then he passes all of the Frog Brothers vampire detection tests, confusing the issue until it's revealed he passed because he was invited in. This was a very cool part of the plot and did fool so many people, including myself. And the bottom line, it was a way to take the mythology that we all knew and loved and shake it up just a little bit, which also kept us guessing. That's a win. The original design inspiration for the 80s vampire we know and love today was none other than an old faded photograph that makeup artist Greg Canham had kept from the past. Canham stated, "I had a newspaper clipping from years before that was faded. It was a blonde tennis player, good looking, with a really good bone structure, and it was faded to the point where it had those kinds of shapes on the forehead and bumps on the cheeks and everything." Canham based the initial makeups on this reference, and the test proved successful. He went on to say, "I did a nice subtle one for Kiefer Sutherland, then flew to England and came back and did a makeup test on him that Monday. Schumacher really liked it but wanted more, which made sense, so I ended up using that piece on Jason Patric for the end scene, and I did a more stylized piece for Kiefer." In the end, the young and fairly unknown cast handled the prosthetic makeups amazingly, especially since for many of them it was their first time. Greg noted, "I remember Kiefer Sutherland saying, 'Don't tell them I'm only 17, they think I'm 18. When we started the film, he had all this baby fat, and I was like, oh god, how am I going to turn this into a vampire? But he was great. I did his life cast with his eyes open, and he had no problems with any of it. All of the actors were absolutely wonderful."
Groovy.
Greg also recounted how shocked he was with the professionalism of child actor Chance Michael Corbett, who plays Laddie, since wearing lenses and prosthetics can be difficult to deal with at such a young age. You never know what a kid's going to do, and he was an absolute trooper in those lenses. They're huge, hard lenses, but he put up with them, and we never had a problem with Chance. Haim also designed and made custom vampire dentures for each actor to wear, which were understated and delicate compared to the large Dracula-esque fangs audiences were used to seeing. I really tried to make the teeth look like pearls. For the application, I embedded wire into the dentures so they would be super strong. It was up to the gum area. The teeth just came down and hooked onto the bottoms of the actors' real teeth. One of the most memorable scenes in the movie was actually filmed outside of Santa Cruz in Santa Clarita, 5 hours south. The Iron Horse Trailhead Trestle Bridge that the vampire gang hangs from in the film is located off Interstate 5 on the Magic Mountain Parkway, about 40 miles north of Los Angeles. The bridge now features a pedestrian walkway for fans or people who would prefer to cross over it instead of hanging underneath. According to director Joel Schumacher, MTV music videos educated a whole new generation to surreal images and non-linear storytelling. A lot of things we did in this movie would have seemed too odd to people before MTV, and that gave us a lot of license to play with things. The effects of Michael's transition from human to half vampire play out as if he had taken something or had a rather rowdy night out with the boys, instead of a transformation into one of the children of the night. In the scene where Sam and the Frog Brothers stake Marco while he sleeps, they are pursued by the rest of the vampire gang as they try to escape back into the daylight. David grabs Sam's leg, but Sam manages to drag David's hand into the sunlight, where it catches fire. A tear then slides down David's face as he clutches his hand in agony. Apparently, the tear running down his face was actually caused by Kiefer Sutherland's contact lenses, which were stinging terribly, but they decided to keep it in as it looked really good and was in context. When the group eats Chinese food, David leaves his chopsticks sticking straight out of his and Michael's food. In Chinese and Japanese culture, it is offensive to give a meal with chopsticks sticking into it because it is like wishing death upon the recipient. This shows that David has unprovoked animosity towards Michael and wants him dead. Hence, as she later reveals, Michael was meant to be killed by Star as her first meal. Number 4. Kills. The Lost Boys has moments of gore but doesn't go off the cliff or under the train tracks with it. There are multiple death scenes for sure, but tension and atmosphere is really what bites your neck. That said, there were some standout moments full of the bloody goodness and practical effects. But to be fair, that may not satisfy those who want the kills to stand out and instill echoes of fear inside of them. There are 14 deaths in the film. One of the coolest is definitely the bonfire massacre. Hey, I'm just saying, those 6 surf Nazis had no clue they were going to be on the menu.
Sweeteners. That's a 10.
According to the director, the scene in which Dwayne, played by Billy Wirth, is electrocuted by the stereo after being shot with an arrow by Sam, it took 2 weeks to film. The entire shoot only took 3 weeks, and Dwayne's death scene only lasts 30 seconds on screen. David is impaled on a pair of antlers and doesn't disintegrate like the other vampires. Despite what Max later says, he is not really dead. This was intended to be picked up in the sequel called The Lost Girls, which was scripted but never made. In the Wildstorm Comics miniseries The Lost Boys: Reign of the Frogs in 2008, which helps bridge the 20-year gap between films, it's implied that David not only survived the impaling, but went on to create Shane, the head of the vampires in Lost Boys: The Tribe.
Be afraid. Be very afraid.
Number 5. Finale. The novelization was released in paperback by Berkeley Publishing and is 220 pages long. It includes several scenes later dropped from the film, such as Michael working as a trash collector for money to buy his leather jacket. It expands the roles of the opposing gang, the Surf Nazis, who were seen as nameless victims of the vampires in the film. It also includes several tidbits of vampire lore, such as not being able to cross running water and salt sticking to their forms.
Expel them!
The merry-go-round sequence foreshadows the order in which the Lost Boys die. Marco dies first, Paul second, Dwayne third, and David last. Also, the order that the vampire boys jump off the bridge is in the same order that they are killed. The final battle standoff is all bunches of cool. The Frog brothers, Sam and Nanook, fight the gang while Michael and David battle each other back and forth. It's everything you want and expect in this film. Or is it? In my opinion, it was great. But when David is defeated, notice that I used the word defeated. The twist that he isn't the head vampire was chef's kiss. Max reveals he was the one who wanted Michael and Sam turned so that Lucy would willingly be turned and then become a mother to the Lost Boys. Pretty good plan, can't deny that, but he forgot about one important element. Grandpa.
Back the fuck off!
Grandpa crashes into the house and kills Max, facilitating Michael, Star, and Laddie to return to normal. The movie didn't originally end on a joke though. After the scene with Grandpa at the refrigerator, it was supposed to cut to the surviving Lost Boys regrouping in the sunken hotel. The last shot was of a mural on the wall, made in the early 1900s, with Max in it, looking exactly the same as he did today. All of this appeared in an early draft of the script, but ultimately was never filmed. But, to be real, if they ended it like that, it would somewhat remind me of a 1980 film, a horror classic starring Jack Nicholson called...
Here's Johnny!
This film went through a lot of phases, directors, changes, and uncertainty, but even with all of that, it became, and still is, a bona fide classic that shines so bright that just like Michael, you too might have to wear sunglasses in the daylight. At the end of the day, The Lost Boys gave us an 80s hip and cool version of vampires, full of colorful and badass characters, and we as fans must deal with it. You have to ask yourself, was this what you wanted in a vampire film? That is a question only you can answer. As always, this video is not here to make you love The Lost Boys or to hate it. It's simply a discussion to highlight the history and aspects of it, good or bad, with you, the viewer. So what do you think? Are you a fan? If so, tell us why. If not, let's discuss why you hate The Lost Boys. If you haven't hit the like button for more content, please do. If you're not subscribed to the Night Watch Zone, this is the time to do it, and become part of this fantastic movie community where you'll never love and talk about movies the same. If you like this video, check out my other Why You Hate videos and other content, including live streams here, and I'll see you there. If you're watching this, if you're listening to this, you are the Night Watch. Peace.